Consider city engineer.
Joe Shember, Mayor of Erie.
Ed Brzezinski, City Council.
Jasmine Flores, City Council.
Mel Witherspoon, City Council.
AJ Antolik, Assistant Director of Public Works, Property and Parks.
Leanne Parmenter, Assistant City Engineer.
Christopher Millett, Communications Director.
Thanks for being here. I appreciate the fact that you all took time out of your busy schedule. Let me tell you what we'd like to do tonight. We'd like to take you through the Greengarden plan, the bikeway plan. Can you speak up a little bit?
Yeah.
Sure, sure. What we want to do is take you through tonight the Greengarden plan. That's why Dan's here tonight. He's going to explain the plan and take you through that. And then we're going to open up the floor for questions and comments. What I want to emphasize tonight is that we're not going to make any decisions tonight. What we want to do is gather your input, get your opinions, and then we're going to regroup the staff with our consultants, and then we're going to subsequently come up with a recommendation for the city council and mayor at a subsequent council meeting, and we will all let you know when that is going to happen. But really the purpose tonight is for us to hear what you have to say. Unfortunately, one of our consultants couldn't be with us tonight because of the technical difficulties. I want to spend a little more time on the Erie Active Transportation Plan because that's where all of this started. Back in 2019, the city received some funding to do an active transportation plan, looking at, among other things, bikeways and bike paths. And so during the course of a 2-year period, over the course of COVID, in fact, there was engagement, most of it non-person with COVID, but online surveys and things like that to get some feedback from people regarding what are the limitations and challenges in terms of getting around the city, not in cars, but alternative forms of transportation. 57% of the respondents to that survey did point out the fact that they felt there should be a more robust system of bikeways and bike lanes. So out of that, and the plan was adopted by City Council in 2021, February 2021. Out of that effort came efforts to secure funding to put some of that plan in action. And that's where we got the Greengarden plan, which was done by Dan Fritz and WRA. And so what I'm going to do is I want to make sure everybody has seen the plan. I'm going to ask Dan to stand up and kind of take you through the plan. So Dan?
All right. Would it be helpful if I use a microphone?
Do you want to move it here so you can see?
I can see on that screen.
See that one? Okay. Great.
All right. Is that a little better? On the back side?
Front side.
How's that? A little better? So again, thank you all for coming out this evening. So what I'm going to do is cover the plan that is shown on the screen above. This is the same Greengarden plan that is also posted on the City of Erie website, along with a presentation that kind of expands on some of the information that Dave mentioned. It gives a little bit more of the history of the Active Erie plan and kind of just the background of how this project came to be. So with that, we'll start looking at the design plan up on the screen. So what we're looking at here is the northern end of the corridor that right now begins at Bayfront Parkway. So between Bayfront Parkway and 12th Street, we're just simply installing sharrows. So that's pavement markings on the roadway, not altering any of the lane configuration or anything that's currently out there. As we proceed south to 12th Street, that project, there's currently a signal improvement project at that intersection. So that signal is being upgraded, and I believe some of the lane configuration is changing there. This project, the bikeway project, is not changing any of the lane configurations there. Once you get south of 12th Street is where the bike lanes begin. So at that point, we're going to have a bike lane in each direction with a painted buffer. At this area, it's a 3.5-foot buffer. I believe there was some maybe misunderstandings on the exact design throughout the corridor with some vertical delineation posts. There are no vertical delineation posts proposed on Greengarden Boulevard. So this buffer area would just simply be a painted buffer area with pavement markings. So that's the orange striped area that you see on the screen in front of you. So as we proceed southbound to the right, we just continue the bike lane in each direction with the painted buffer to 16th Street. And then at 16th Street, that's where the roadway narrows some. And at that point, we eliminate the painted buffer area, and we just have the bike lanes, a 5-foot bike lane on each side with 10-foot travel lanes. And that carries through past the railroad tracks. And this cross-section is consistent all the way to 26th Street. So even when you get to 21st Street, where you get more into the town area, it's still going to be 5-foot bike lanes with 10-foot travel lanes. There'll be post-mounted signs installed designating the bike lanes in each direction, as well as no parking signs to kind of emphasize there's really not parking out here in this section today, but we just want to reinforce that with the no parking signs. So as we proceed at 25th Street, we end the bike lanes, and approaching 26th Street, again, this is an intersection that is going to be under construction in the near future. PennDOT has a project coming through here that is going to be updating the traffic signals along 26th Street. We're not altering any of the lanes, turn lanes or anything at this intersection. All the existing turn lanes will remain after this project. If you don't mind, we'll hold questions to the end. It's not going to take much longer to get through the design. So in this section between 25th Street and 26th Street, it's going to be share the road, sharrows again. And then once you proceed south through the 26th Street intersection, at this point you get into the segment that has the median in the middle, and there's existing, I believe it's around 20 feet of pavement width in each direction. At this section is where we propose to eliminate the on-street parking and install one bike lane in each direction with, I believe, a 3-foot painted buffer. So again, there's no vertical delineator posts or anything being installed at any section along this corridor. It's simply just a painted buffer area with a bike lane. There will also be post-mounted signs again, emphasizing that it's a bike lane and no parking. This should not impact anyone's driveway access or anything like that. It's simply just pavement markings on the street. Some other improvements associated with the project will be upgrading any drainage inlets, making them bicycle-safe grades, patching potholes and that sort of thing to make sure the pavement surface is smooth to ride on. So this exact section here continues all the way to 38th Street. At the another signalized intersection on the corridor is 32nd Street. Right now, the city has a separate project there to replace the traffic signal at 32nd Street. So along this entire corridor, all the traffic signals will be upgraded or replaced by separate projects. But at the end of the day, they'll all have fully ADA compliant facilities, the audible accessible push buttons. So all those concerns should be addressed by different projects, but at the end of the day, everything should be fully ADA compliant. And then as we approach 38th Street, that's the southern terminus of the project, and that ties into a separate project that was completed by PennDOT several years ago to make 38th Street an east-west bikeway. And I believe as part of a paving project, they installed sharrows along 38th Street. So this is where, on the Greengarden Boulevard section, the bike lanes will terminate. Again, there's no elimination or modification of any of the turn lanes at 38th Street. The existing turn lanes will remain, and it'll be share the road at this point. And, as Dave mentioned, this is kind of the first phase of, installing bike facilities along various corridors throughout the city. And that all came about as part of the Active Erie plan. And actually, it was an outcome from all the public input from folks throughout the city with the desire. So at that point, if we could all. I'll let Dave handle those questions.
Okay, okay. Okay, thanks. All right, can you hear me? Okay.
Question before you talk, sir. I want to ask this consultant.
Okay, go ahead.
Why did you, when you did this, did you ever go on the street itself? Have you observed her? No, you did not. No, you did not. We had a hell of a time just getting out of our driveway, just trying to get here.
Okay, so let me ask everybody, and I know emotions can run high, but Dan, I understand that, but Dan is our consultant. It's not whatever fault lies, it doesn't lie with Dan. So just if everyone could just keep that in mind.
Yeah, because he engineered it.
I understand that, but we're here. Listen. If we hold on, I need you to stop for just a second, because if we shout over each other, we're not going to accomplish anything. So if everyone can agree that we go one at a time and make your comments, respectfully if you can, and you want to address your comments and answer your questions. Well, I understand, Freda. So, now I've lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. Why don't we start with you, ma'am, because you were.
So I just have a couple points. As somebody who used to try and bike from Greengarden, like 29th and Greengarden, down to Strong Vincent with my little sister, the sidewalks were not great, and I'm sorry, have you seen the telephone poles at the intersection of 26th Street? Have you seen how many kids have gotten hit? It's not safe. I'm too scared to even park my car in the parking lane. The drivers are ridiculous, and they treat it like a speedway. Yes. It's not safe. And as much as I would love to have somebody have a bike path on Greengarden, Greengarden is not the street for it.
So if I understand what you're saying, you're saying it's not safe with or without a bike lane. Just.
Almost every morning, almost every time going home. We used to take that
Okay.
path down Greengarden.
And by the way,
Not safe.
yeah.
12th Street, that intersection is an absolute
Okay.
nightmare. And it's safer even when they have that.
All right. Well, thank you for your comment. And I also want to let you know, we only have about an hour for this meeting, and I apologize for that. So if folks can limit their comments. I think this lady over here had her hand up first.
Thank you. I do have a question. Where are the monies, where's the funds coming from for this?
I am going to
Is it from PennDOT?
It's
Is it
state funding.
state funding, so it's state funded.
State
Okay.
and federal
Share
fund.
the
Well, it's
road,
federal
share-
funding
share the road,
allocated through
share
the state.
expenses is my model, all right? Because I, as a driver, have to have vehicle insurance, I have to have a registration, and I'm responsible, all right? And the police enforce that, correct? Who's gonna enforce these bicyclists? Who's gonna enforce it when their handlebar scrapes down your vehicle?
That
No,
should
wait a minute, whoa. I as a driver who's paying for this, who's paying for those signs, right? All the paint for the bike, everything that's on there. I have to pay for that, right? You got a government fund, the funding originally comes from me.
I don't.
We pay for it. Now, you're telling me that these people that live on Greengarden, and they're gonna have a graduation party, that they can't park in the street? They're paying tax for that, right?
Under this design.
So they can't park on the street.
Under this design, they wouldn't.
Okay,
You're
right, exactly.
But
So
let
that's.
me, can I move on to somebody else? I really want to make sure.
I propose a 1 minute limit on comments. I just propose that for everybody, so we do a 1 minute limit on comments.
Well, I'd like to hear everybody, but we do have to get around the room. I think you
You didn't
folks.
answer my question.
I don't think we can, I don't
Are these
think.
bicycles gonna have license plate on them, so if they do
I
damage to
can't
somebody,
They're
they're
not
not
required,
now?
bicyclists are not required to have a
Exactly.
license.
Well, we're supposed to share the road, but we
Ma'am,
don't.
ma'am, I just want to give this lady an opportunity.
Yes.
Therefore,
Yeah. Well,
I'm Karen Adams. I live at 3315 Greengarden. I intentionally moved back to Erie in 2019. So I come at this from a place of my heart. Well, I wanted to address council as well. So we were told when we were here a week and a half ago about these posts. So much of what I have on the paper that you have in front of you refers to those posts. Now we know that those are not going to happen, so we can ignore that part of it. However, speeding and the problem with this not stopping at the stop signs is something that I want to start with. That is a public safety issue, whether we have a bike path or not. So I would ask that please that be controlled. Second, and related to that, would be that we were told also at the last meeting that the fire department had signed off on this. Now we find out from our own questions to the fire department that they have not, because they would not approve if they had known what it involved. I don't know if you have an answer to that. So when leaving my driveway this morning, there was a bike coming around the corner on 34th and turning onto Greengarden. I stopped for him, let him go by. He went down the street. When it came to a car, he went around the car, went back into the parking lane. There is no problem with that on our street. There's no reason to cut off, to take away the parking spaces. So again, if you're going to take the parking spaces away, what are the taxes going to go down for those of us who live on Greengarden Boulevard? Which, by the way, Greengarden Boulevard is different than Greengarden Road north of 26th Street. Also, is our home value going to go down? Which means, therefore, if our home value goes down, therefore our property taxes go down, right? So come on. What are you trying to accomplish here? So again, we can ignore many of the stuff that's on here about the poles, the posts, whatever you want to call them. But I've seen the reconfiguration of the traffic lanes at 12th Street now that the new signals have been put in. How are you going to accommodate bike paths there? I saw what you had up on the thing, but again, it's going to be share the road. So why cannot not be share the road between 26th Street and 38th Street? There's no reason why it can't be. If you're doing it other places, you can do it the whole length of Greengarden, whether it's Greengarden Road or Greengarden Boulevard. One more, please. I just want to say that we were not informed of this until we read it in the paper on January 27th, if you got the paper. And we received a letter from the city engineer on the 28th, the next day. So we should have been included in this discussion. Last comment I want to make is, if this is to go through, we're going to be very much opposed. So you haven't heard the last from us. However, I think some of us need to be part of the solution if we can change any of this, and I volunteer to be part of that. Thank you.
All right, so there's quite a few questions in that statement. So the question about why can't it be sharrows the entire length of the corridor? That's an option. But the goal of the Active Erie Plan, which was, again, determined from citywide outreach, that's something that everyone needs to understand.
Outreach to who?
There were several hundred survey respondents. There were pop-up meetings throughout the city. So
Excuse me! He's speaking now. He gave you the courtesy to go uninterrupted. He's answering your questions now.
Just let Dan, if you could let Dan
So
answer
please
the
speak
question.
the truth.
There was public outreach conducted as part of the Active Erie plan, but back to the point of sharrows. Again, that's an option, but one of the goals is to provide a low-stress environment for other modes of transportation. Someone mentioned about bicyclists on the sidewalk. You may or may not know that's actually illegal. Anyone over the age of 16 in the city of Erie is not allowed to ride their bikes on the sidewalk. So their path for traveling on a bicycle is technically on the street. I think some folks here admitted that it can be dangerous to ride on the street, which is why it's preferable to provide bicyclists their own lane. Also, by narrowing the lanes, installing a bike lane with a painted buffer is actually a traffic calming perspective. So it could lower traffic speeds and make it safer for everyone.
You're funny.
Ma'am.
This is national guidance, so.
Ma'am, go ahead, you have a question? If you'd like to line up for questions, that's fine. I didn't. Go ahead, ma'am.
Ma'am, do you so everybody can hear you?
I was just going to say, coming in on 6th Street, I noticed there's the parking and then there's the bike lane. Can something like that be done on Greengarden? You know, where going each way, there's the driving lane, there's the bike lane, and then there's a parking lane.
That is a possibility that we talked about. With the existing width of the pavement, that's a little challenging to provide a travel lane, a bike lane, and a parking lane. It would be very minimum dimensions.
Can you cut into the boulevard at all on each side?
That would require a significant expense to have pavement the entire length of the corridor. But we can talk about that option.
That's all.
I just have a statement, basically. We have a bike route down Parade Street. It's shared, okay? Everybody has a shared ride down Parade Street. Over on East 38th Street, if you ever look at the old bike lane there is still remnants of the bikes on East 38th Street, which is the most dangerous street to have any bike route, but it's all shared. No, there's no parking on 38th Street, but there shouldn't be, because that's a shared, it's a two-way lane. I feel that I've lived in Greengarden for 55 years. I've owned, my father and my mother owned the home, I own it. I've never moved. I like where I live, but I also like to have my freedoms if I want to park on the street, which I never do. But if I have a person that's coming here, like my father was sick, I had a nurse every day. She couldn't park in my driveway because I have 3 vehicles. My husband is living there with me, and my father was always there. You know what I mean? And we had 3 vehicles plus my father's vehicle. So there was no way that any time that we could have parked out on the driveway or not have a nurse or anybody come into our house for 6 to 8 hours taking care of my family member for that. And I have 3 people that I know down the road. They're all elderly, and they all have nurses. That's number 1. 2, I think it could be a shared way, all the way. Because on Sunday, they rode bikes up and down Greengarden. I watched them. Brad Ford, my cousin, recorded them. And there was no problems. And if there is like 4 or 5 cars parked on the street on daily time, it's no big deal. They can go around them. They can do it on 38th Street. They can do it on Parade Street. They can do it on Greengarden then. And in French Street, you guys are going to be doing that one. That's my statement.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yep.
If I could just remind people to try to keep your statements to 1 minute. We just want to get through all the comments that people might have. So after you.
So ever since the Active Erie plan was finished, I and Emily And Leanne, you can confirm that I have been saying, when are you going to do public involvement? How are you going to address parking? And I was ignored. And I did not get the letter that you all got. We should all be getting that letter until somebody decided to send me that letter late in the game. There should be an accessible pedestrian signal at West 38th Street. None was done when that signal was adjusted. I hear that you're going to do the APS at 32nd. That's really good. The bike path should go all the way to 8th Street, and there should be a three-way stop there. There should be, you should complete the sidewalk on the east side of Greengarden between West 12th and the Bayfront Parkway. If you're going to expend money for bicyclists, you need to equally take care of the pedestrians who currently don't have a usable sidewalk there. The West 26th through West 21st is very busy. I live on West 23rd, and now that there's a four-way stop on West 21st, I never try to turn left onto Greengarden. I always go up to 21st and go across. It now sounds like if the bikes are there, I'm going to have to go up to 21st just to get a right turn onto Greengarden. It's very, very busy in that segment, and I am concerned about, I can't turn left half the time when I'm going north on Greengarden. Now it's going to be harder to do that too.
Thank you for your comments, sir.
Hello, I'm Eric Brozell. I live in a neighborhood, and I've been a lifelong bicyclist and the founding member of Bike Erie. I ride up and down Greengarden all the time, and it's not safe. And the example that I use is what you're seeing here today is the anger about bicyclists. That's why we need a protected lane. This is a good example of how people are in their cars to bicyclists. You are taking your life in your hands, and I think that, Mayor, you remember the last time we were all on a group ride, you almost got hit on 12th Street, and that's a really good example of why we need a little bit of separation. And, you know, people think that cars own the road, and this is a good example today. So, and the transportation system that we have here is broken. So I want everyone in the community, especially children, to be able to ride their bikes on the street safely. Our streets are designed for cars, not people. Look at the cities around the tri-state area and you'll see many bike lanes. Bike lanes are nothing new. They're safer. It's the safest way for bicyclists, and it makes it safer for cars and pedestrians. So this is a big improvement that our community needs. It's an encouragement to the city. People that want to come to a city, they look at things like this. This is an encouragement to the city. And a few people that are complaining, you know, I mean, that's an issue.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Seiner. I've lived in Erie for 7 years. I don't own a car. I do own a home and I own a business and I work another job. I use a bike as my only transportation other than walking. And Erie by far is the most dangerous place that I have ever traveled by bike or foot. I've been hit multiple times. I've had a lot of close calls. And I'm a really confident rider. I use 38th Street because the Sharrows are there. So I'm like, okay, my bike's supposed to be here. I use Greengarden. Usually that parking lane doesn't have many cars parked in it, and it is a very safe place to ride compared to some of our other streets. But I'm in full support of the Active Erie plan. I did take some of the surveys, went to some of the meetings. I know COVID made it hard to reach as many people as they wanted to. But I really support the addition of the separate lane because I think there are many people who are not confident riders who want to travel in a way other than a car, but they feel really unsafe. And having that spot so that when drivers yell, hey, get on the, get off the road, get on the sidewalk, get out of my way, having that lane marked for bikes with the signs for bikes, I think will make really a huge difference, and it's a great place to start. So thank you.
Hi, my name's Amanda Gates. I'm a resident and a homeowner, and I do not live on Greengarden. I live on the Lower West Side. My family does own one car that we all share, so that means that one of us is always commuting by bike, including our teenagers. I'm in full support of the Active Erie plan, not just for myself. While I might not have a lot of reason to go that way, other people might. This isn't just about me. So I also want to point out something that no one is really talking about, and that is transportation equity. A lot of people in our city do not have access to car travel, and the buses are not sufficient to get the places you need to go. A lot of people that might have to travel by bike might not even have access to this type of meeting. They might not even speak English. We, through Bike Erie, we do support the Sisters of St. Joseph Neighborhood Network, and some of our members are volunteers with them. And this year we gave 300 bikes to refugees. So people like that are not represented at this meeting. So I just want to point that out. It's not just about the people who choose to bike, but there are a lot of people that don't have a choice. And I think that this Greengarden is part of a larger network, and that network eventually will get all over the city, and that will be beneficial for everyone.
Hi, my name's Sarah. I am going to make this brief because I know that there's a time limit, so I'm just going to zip through a bunch to not, overpass that. Rural, R-O-E-H-R-L. I live just off of 29th. It is not safe, and I'm sorry, whether you have a lane or not is not going to stop some of these drivers from crossing through it. Like I pointed out earlier, that intersection at 26th Street. Have you seen those telephone poles? Have you seen how often they get knocked into businesses, into traffic and everything else because people don't know how to take their turns? If you constrict those lanes, it's gonna be worse. And I'm sorry, Greengarden is a main road for first responders. Where are they supposed to go? Where are people supposed to turn off to get out of their way? And what are we supposed to do? If it's a bike lane, you can't park in it.
Emergency access, you can't.
Okay, well, regardless, I'm moving on, trying to be quick. Family gatherings, where are people supposed to park? Not all of us have a huge driveway. Some of us, like someone else mentioned, have multiple cars. We can't all park there. And I don't feel that you guys personally really care about what us Greengardeners have to say about this. You gave us an hour to discuss something that, you didn't even bring up to us until last minute. We live there. This affects us the most, and you reached out to us so last minute. You're borderline muffling us. We have a voice. We are allowed to use it, and we're not happy about it. I'm not in support of this bike lane at all. And that's my piece. So, ta-da!
My name is Dave Wells. I live at 3223 Greengarden Boulevard. Greengarden, especially below 26th Street, is traveled by cement trucks, semis, and if you think a 10-foot lane for a semi and a cement truck is going to keep you safe on a bicycle, you're sadly mistaken. Secondly, like the other girl mentioned, we pay some pretty high taxes on Greengarden. Bicycles don't pay any registration fees. They don't pay anything. People that use them don't pay taxes on our street. And I'm supposed to pay registration fees, insurance, and everything on my car. I can't even park on the street. My son wants to have some guys over to play basketball. My driveway is my basketball court. What are they supposed to do? Family gatherings, again, no way. We can't do anything now on our street, so our property values are going to fall, and our taxes should be cut because of this. There's no way that having full use of our property anymore should be, negated by a bike path. I would suggest run one down Frontier Drive and across South Shore Drive. That'd be a great place. It's nice and safe. Right, Mayor? And take your parking away. Wouldn't that be nice?
I just wanted to respond real quick to that gentleman, if I could. I understand people's frustration with losing parking spaces, but I just want to explain to you that the roads are really for transportation. That's why the roads are developed. Off-street parking is really kind of a secondary thing to moving vehicles, whether they be cars or bicycles, and so that's why this active transportation plan came to be, because the roads are really for moving vehicles. So I just wanted to explain what our perspective is. I respect your perspective, but I just wanted to let you know that that's our perspective.
Hi, my name is Melanie Rural. I'm the mother of Sarah Rural. We live right by the four-way stop there. I don't know how many times my neighbor, I told her about the meeting, but she wasn't able to attend. She lives right next door to me. East-west, there was a bicyclist on February 9th between 5:20 and 5:50. I stayed a half an hour at the end of my driveway, and this is what I saw. About 60 to 65 vehicles going north and south on Greengarden. 15 vehicles coming east-west on 29th Street. A very high percentage did not execute proper stops, including a city police officer. 3 cyclists were the only actual bicyclists that were on Greengarden. They were on the sidewalk. Then when they got to the stop sign, they didn't approach it properly. They didn't stop. They didn't look, and then jetted out onto the street in front of oncoming traffic. You're telling me they're responsible? They're not. We are. We have to be. Here's another one. A cyclist coming from East 29th Street, going west on 29th Street, properly geared up with a helmet, side saddle and everything, blew through the stop sign because, well, I'm a bicyclist. I don't have to pay attention to the rules of the road. And yes, Mr. Schember, I'm looking at you. You aren't the one, but you're the one that leads this city. Also, there was an emergency vehicle coming up Greengarden. It was heading south. We have a lot of elderly there. We have to have a place for our first responders. We have to have a place. There's a fire station, one of only 3 in the whole entire city, who happens to be on 26th Street. Where are they supposed to go? Oh, we got all these bikers there. Oh, we got to jet into these parking lanes? The one person pulled out, didn't even stop at 29th Street, making that left-hand turn. They cannot negotiate that turn. They've driven through our yards. They can't make that turn. So please tell me, whose pockets are being lined? It ain't mine.
Again, I just want to take a moment to respond to that, and Dan, if you want to say anything as well. I mean, we're trying to make these streets safe for everybody, for every mode of travel. And what I'm hearing folks describe is that it's not safe for bicycles right now. The intent behind this plan is to make that road safer for bicycles. Will it be a perfect solution? I'm sure there will be no perfect solution, but we are trying to make it safer for everyone. That's the intent. Sir.
Real quick. Yeah, one other point to make is that the road is a public right-of-way. It's owned by the city of Erie and not the property owners adjacent to it. And so in an effort to make it safer for all modes of travel, you can kind of redistribute that pavement however you like. But we're looking for compromise, is what we're looking for.
Compromise. That's the key word, is compromise. All right? In today's society, it's either all or nothing. Mike Vitale, 2722 Greengarden, I came back. All right? Compromise. All right? Let me ask a question. I'm going to ask, this may be the stupidest question ever asked at City Council. If I live on 18th and Cherry and I have a bicycle, how do I get to 26th and Greengarden to use the bike lane? So the active Erie plan is going to eliminate parking on West 18th Street, West 21st Street, everywhere to get to our spot. Now, Mayor, God bless you, all right? Let me tell you this much. I live between 26th and 29th on Greengarden, all right? There are 21 houses in that. I want you guys to think about this, all right? Think about the cash that we think we might have earned, okay? 10 of those houses have been in their families or owned by somebody for over 365 years. 365 years, we feel we do have the right to at least be brought to the table and ask for some kind of a compromise. All right? 365 years of families living in that area. They've been passed down from family to family. Okay? We're not a bunch of rabble-rousers or we're just here to make noise or whatever it is. We love our street. We love our neighborhood. All right? We love our neighbors. Okay? Please take that into consideration, that we've made the investment. We've made the investment in our neighborhood. All right? And once you, and something is going to be taken away from us, which is why we're so passionate. Thank you.
My name's Rick Carr, 3817 Greengarden Boulevard. I just have a question. You know, between 26th Street and 38th Street is a main thoroughfare for first responders. There isn't a day that goes by, ambulance or a fire truck or police go by. Who is liable when and this happened to me 3 times, when we have to pull over for the first responders if they hit a bicyclist? Who's liable for that? Because there's only one way we can pull over, only one side, and that would be right at the bike path. I'm more concerned with the safety aspect of this. That is a busy, all day long. It's one of the busiest roads in Erie. Now you add bikes, and like I said, 3 times in 1 week I had to pull over. I'd hate to hit a bicyclist getting out of the way of first responders. Thank you very much.
David St. George, 2727 Greengarden. Bill Hayden sent us a letter a month ago, 2023, but we were not contacted any time before that. I don't know why we couldn't have been sent a letter 2021. Residents had no idea. What about contractors, utility trucks, delivery trucks? Are they allowed to park alongside? Are they going to be pulling into driveways, or we have landscapers? Yeah, what?
To say the majority of those vehicles should be allowed to temporarily park in the bike lane to deliver a package.
Okay, a contractor maybe is going to be there for a day, or a landscaper is going to be there for an hour.
That would be up to the city to determine, you know, the rules for that. But I think
okay.
On a short-term temporary basis, there's a possibility they can park there.
Okay, at my driveway, there's a 4-foot diameter sycamore tree, and it's a few feet from the street. There's a 4-foot diameter sycamore tree, and when I back up, my end of my car is right at the street, and I can look up the street. In the mornings, there's hundreds of cars that come by during rush hour. If a vehicle is any longer than that, the driver is going to be further forward, and the tree is going to block his view of the street. If it's like a Amazon Prime truck, or like a Waterworks truck, or something longer, they are going to have to be halfway out into the street through the bike path to see around the tree to see what's coming. Bigger vehicles, where the trees are down, toward 26th Street, the trees are going to be a blind spot. You're not going to see what's coming. You have to be behind it. So, okay, I would consider that. Large trucks are not going to be able to pull in driveways and back out.
Adam Trott, I live at 4642 Highview Boulevard. I'm going to turn around so the audience can see this. This is an exhibit that was shared with City Council during the last City Council meeting. The big picture here is called the Erie Urban Bike Trail. It's an 18-mile continuous loop around the city. Most of it is already, half of it's already in place with the Bayfront Recreation Trail. The 2 parts that need to be finished are 38th Street East and West and Greengarden Boulevard. 38th Street is PennDOT owned, so PennDOT is the ones we're negotiating with to get the bike lanes there.
and 38th Street has incredible road width. Greengarden has a 100-foot public right-of-way. It's one of the biggest in the city. And I get it. That boulevard's gorgeous. That's what helps characterize it. I'm actually the architect on Widget Financial on 26 in Greengarden. I remember studying your neighborhood because I wanted to make that building be a good transition from commercial to residential. Regarding the East Erie, or the Erie Urban Bike Trail, this 18-mile loop is meant to be able to connect over 11 schools, 15 parks, over 11 major attractions like the Bayfront, the City Zoo, the JMC Ice Arena, YMCA. It's meant to make a connection for those that can't afford or get a car. So it's about equality, and it's about a public right-of-way having the road diet changed so that it facilitates much more options for urban mobility. The consultant in this case is right that when you have protected bike lanes, it calms the traffic, and that's the whole point, traffic calming. And it's been verified study after study. So this is the big picture at work here, and we're advocating that the Greengarden work goes all the way to Frontier Park with a 3-stop sign at 8th and 8th and Greengarden.
So we'll reverse our taxes though.
Well, bikers pay taxes too.
Next, sir.
Hey, it's all the same people. Wait, you had your turn, stop interrupting.
Hi, my name is Rob Dunn. I live at 3217 Greengarden Boulevard. And I agree with my neighbor, compromise is absolutely necessary to keep the calm. You know, the one lady mentioned when she was up here that she was speaking for people who aren't represented here. I'd like to do that too. There's a church right across the street from me. And that church has a very small parking lot. When they're full, they overflow onto the street. They can't park on 32nd, so they have nowhere to park, absolutely nowhere. Myself, I have a meeting once a week where 8 cars come to my house. I can't get 8 cars in my driveway. So the dilemma goes beyond Greengarden. It's going to affect a lot of residents too. Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name is Kara White. I live at 3416 Greengarden. And my biggest concern is safety for the bicyclists. I enjoy working in my yard, edging my around the sidewalk and along the road. I've almost been hit several times by vehicles, not by bicyclists. I'm concerned about the children who will be using the bike lanes as well. People just fly. I feel like I know we have a lot of elderly. I'm a caregiver myself, and I take care of one of my neighbors who's just turned 100, and the wife is 98 years old. They have 24-hour care there. They have sitters coming, at the end of a shift, and they have a lot of times we have vehicles on the road because of that. We want to make it smooth and easy for them. I understand that, I like to ride bicycles. I walk my dog every day. Sometimes I have to walk on the road because somebody's walking and I don't want my dog to bite them or something. So I go on the road, and it's very dangerous. It's very dangerous. Pardon? I'm done? Okay. So, thank you.
Sorry, Dan's gonna just make a comment based on your comment.
So definitely safety is a #1 consideration of this project. I keep hearing that word repeated over and over again. And so one way to address that is by calming traffic through narrowing the travel lane, which will slow people down. It will also provide a safe place for bicyclists and keeping them off of the sidewalk, where I hear lots of people like to walk on the sidewalks and walk their dogs. That's the purpose. Sidewalks are for pedestrians, bike lane for bicyclists, and the travel lane for cars. So keep them all in their own area, and it will be safer for everybody.
Yeah, we have time for at least 3 more people.
Hello there. My name is Tom Maggio. I live at 620 Cherry Street. Okay, thanks. Pardon? Yeah, I'm Tom Maggio. I live at 620 Cherry Street in the city of Erie. In the fall of 2019, I sent Liz Allen an email. I predicted this day. Unfortunately, this is what I predicted. I asked the consultant in this very room prior to that email if he would reconsider his public involvement process to include public meetings. And he said, "We're not going to do that." So I've been a bicyclist for over 40 years, still alive. As a kid, I rode my bike over 29th Street to play soccer at Hamilton School. I can assure you all the cracks are still there from 1978. I'd ride my bike down Greengarden to play baseball at the Forge Fields, and the only problem I ever had was with the railroad tracks. I never felt unsafe. As a planner, I was actually the first staff person tasked with bicycle planning in metropolitan Cleveland 25 years ago. I have a bit of a unique perspective of this situation. I spent a number of years in the field working on the national level too at the Trails Conservancy in Washington. I have also been involved with bicycle advocacy on the local, state, and national levels for over 30 years. In Erie, my advocacy efforts resulted in the construction of a rail trail in Corey, the only one in Erie County. And I also had a hand in developing the bike trail system on the Bayfront that most of you enjoy. As a planner, quite frankly, I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed by the contempt that has been shown to the public by city staff. This is not how planners in the rest of the country operate. And I have to say that it's not Dave's fault, because Dave just started. This is not how we operate. I asked the project consultant before COVID if we could have public engagement, and there was one meeting in October 2020 during the day. Who could make that? Is this intentional? I tried to use the survey online. It didn't work. It was broken. What am I supposed to do? I gave up after trying 20 times. I asked the steering committee members for updates. I received none. So your frustration, people on Greengarden, is not unique. I share that frustration. In short, the Active Transportation Steering Committee met really in secret, and they had no public dialogue before the draft plan was created. The city applied for funding for Greengarden and Front Street, without making those plans public. And for that reason alone, I feel these projects should be halted. As a bike planner, lifelong cyclist, and a resident of Auburn Street, I know Greengarden well. I feel that the removal of parking to create a buffered bike lane is completely unnecessary. There is a sufficient width right now for cars, bikes, and parked cars to coexist. The problem really is the intersections, 26th Street, 28th Street, and 12th Street. That's where the collisions will happen. That's where the fatalities will happen. And that's not addressed really appropriately, in my opinion, in this plan. In short, the best course of action, I believe, for all involved is to revisit this plan, have a full public involvement process. I'd hate to see the bicyclists bear the brunt of resident anger because they had no hand in designing this project and no opportunity to comment. So thank you.
I'm Jim Rasman. Can you hear me? Jim Rasman. I'm from Mill Creek. I'll try to bring a little bit different perspective from this. I'm not a spring chicken. I did 2,000 miles last year on my bicycle. When I need to ride, I usually go up to the VA when I ride my bicycle. So would I ride Greengarden? No. Why? Because I don't want to compete with cars. Would I ride 38th Street? No. Why? I don't want to suck car fumes. My purpose for riding bicycle is for health purposes to get me where I want to go, and I enjoy riding bicycles. I've been doing it ever since '76. When I go out and I ride a bike, my consideration is safety. Next consideration is what routes do I take so I don't have to compete with cars. Next route I do is if I have to go uphill, how am I going to attack the hill? Because I'm not going to go straight up the hill. I'm zigzagging going up the hill so that I can get to my destination so I can have fun. Coming back down, different story. Phew, right down to the Bayfront Parkway, and I ride that all the time. I ride through the city a lot. So if you guys are going to put bicyclists and cars together, you have to be crazy to want to ride your bike with a lot of cars, even if it slows them down, because it's just not healthy. And like I said, I'm not a spring chicken.
I'm not going to be long at all. I'm Brenda Rieger. I live on Greengarden, 33rd, 3316. My concern is, my husband and I are older now. We need people to come, like, to cut my lawn with the big truck and everything. Where are they going to park? He doesn't want to park down the road and bring his lawnmower up to my house, and I need somebody to help me. We're older. My husband's on air. He can't get out there and do it either. And also, what about the obstructs or the FedEx? Where are they going to go when they need to drop a package off? Because we are not getting out of the house as much either. I'm older. So that's my concern. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Betsy McCrell. I live at 2905 Greengarden. I have a couple questions, specifically with the development of the research and asking for people's input. I'd like to hear a little more specifically about how people's input was asked, what people's input was asked, and what was the transition from that to a plan, because that was quickly skipped over, where the plan came from there. Thank you.
That's the part of the presentation that we weren't able to do tonight, but that's a good question. So Dan's going to try to...
I'll admit I did not take part in the Active Erie plan. I wasn't responsible for developing it, but I do know a little bit about it. So there was some public involvement as part of that project.
357 responses, I think that's correct. So that's 357 responses.
So as part of the Active Erie plan, there was a steering committee. I know some folks mentioned that. There was a steering committee made up of all sorts of stakeholders, public stakeholders from the city of Erie.
Were any of those Greengarden residents?
No. So
you can hold your comments, please, because we're running out of time.
So as other folks mentioned, the Active Erie plan was impacted by COVID-19, so there was not a lot of in-person public involvement. Although we wish there could have been. There was public surveys put out. There was numerous virtual meetings that were held. There were also pop-up in-person. I believe there were 2 at least in-person public meetings that coincided with various bus stops and at various parks. You have to keep in mind that the Active Erie plan covered all of the city and all of the roads in Erie. So, but we could not submit a letter to every resident within the city. The method for doing that was online, through surveys, through the city website, and other different media sources at that time. Sure.
Yeah. When was Greengarden Boulevard identified as that, like that portion? Do you give a date, a month, a year, anything?
It would have been during 2020 and 2021 when the plan was being developed.
Okay, I think the mayor
Well, sure. Could you finish your comment?
they were able to mail me my city taxes.
Okay.
I get that every year. Okay? So
All right.
I think that once the Greengarden was identified, we should have sent the mail to us once it was identified. If they can deliver my taxes, they should be able to deliver a letter back in 2020 saying this is possibly going to happen.
I wasn't here, so I don't know the process, but my understanding is that efforts were made in the environment of COVID to do the best we could to contact people and get them to respond to surveys and get them to give input. Having said that, you know, this is the learning experience for all of us on city staff. We're fortunate enough to now have a dedicated communications director. And so what I'm anticipating is that we're going to learn from this and we're going to do better the next time. But I appreciate what you're saying. I appreciate the frustration you have. We don't have any time for more questions. I'm sorry. But I can't, we have to wrap up. The council has to leave the room. I'd be happy to take your question after the meeting. Again, what we're going to do is we're going to take your comments, we're going to regroup with the consultant, and we're going to come up with a recommended plan. And so we will let you know through the HOA when that's going to happen. So thank you very much.
This is a very important question.
I'm going to take it offline. Rick,